A world full of machines everywhere we go, in our cities, our streets, all doing one job: transportation. Does it just take us from A to B, or is it something more? Either way, it moves us. Will humanity give up its right to transport itself willingly? That's what I'm here today to find out. If you'll join me, I'll take a look at the phenomenon that is driverless cars. These are cars that can drive themselves with little or no need for human intervention. In this documentary, I will look at how driverless cars work, but my main focus will be on whether the people, you and me, actually want them. I will look at the opinions of various people on driverless cars to gauge the view of the general public. First, we will look at the opinion of two experienced drivers. Let's see what they have to say. Hello, I'm going to ask you some questions about how you feel about driverless cars. Okay, the first question: would you feel safe with driverless cars on the road? I think we'll come to you first, Danny.
I think so. There's a lot worse things on the road, i.e. other drivers. I think a driverless car is the way forward, so I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Barry?
Pretty much the same. I think I wouldn't like to have a driverless car. I enjoy driving, but I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be on the road. In fact, I think in some cases they could be a positive boon for people.
Danny, do you think, would you feel any empathy at all towards drivers like lorry drivers and cabbies and bus drivers who could lose their jobs if driverless cars came around?
I think that you could still use a lorry driver, even if the lorry's automated. There still needs someone to keep a watch over things, to help with the unloading.
It is a good idea to have a driver with a lorry when you think about it. If they have an unsafe load or something happens to the load partway through the journey, at least the driver's going to be more aware of it. If you get somebody bibbing you up because your load's unsafe, is an automated system going to realise?
Yeah, and do you think the same with autopilots in planes? Do you think that relates to driverless cars? Do you think you would feel safe in a similar way?
So yeah, if you can trust an aeroplane with all those people on board, why can't you trust a driverless car? The question for me would be, would I want a driverless car? And I think the answer to that is no. I enjoy driving, and while I can, I want to.
Yeah, because Danny, do you think, say if you was in a plane and there was no pilot, you'd feel fairly worried, wouldn't you? So do you feel that if you was in a car with no driver, would it be similar?
Yeah, I think the way forward with it is to make them dual purpose, to have them so as they can be driven in a conventional way with a driver, or they can be switched to a completely automatic mode.
Do you enjoy driving, and if so, how would you feel about having this enjoyment taken away from you by the prospect of fully autonomous cars, so cars that completely drive themselves?
Yeah, I think it would be a big mistake to make them fully automatic and have no facility where the driver can take over and still get the pleasure from driving.
It's a little bit like steam trains. You know, people will still enjoy steam trains for the sheer mechanical gift that it gives you. There is something to have the knowledge to build and to drive a car and to understand how it works completely. And a lot of people don't get that. You know, I see it as a hobby almost, driving. Yeah. But a lot of people see it as a chore.
Do you think it is possibly quite dangerous to let technology control our lives in this way? And do you trust technology enough to let it do an important and potentially quite dangerous job in driving a car?
Well, when it comes, you think about your laptop. How often does it crash? How often does it have a problem and hang up?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't get the right updates? What happens if it's not got the right firmware or got a virus or something? these sorts of things happen all the time. How many of them are going to be ironed out?
I think in years to come, by the time all this is developed to a point where we're all using it, computers and they might be more reliable than they are today.
They certainly had a lot to say. Now let's hear a bit more about how driverless cars actually look. What you're seeing here is how the world looks from the view of a driverless car. This is what the computer sees as the car drives around. There are three main types of technology used in driverless cars. The first was conceived in the 50s when it was believed that we may all be transported in driverless cars guided by magnets in the road. This, however, is not seen as a viable option today. There are also sensors which scan the road for obstacles. This is what is shown here with a 70s driverless car that uses sensors. This seems like the most favoured of the options to car manufacturers at the moment. The last of these ways to make driverless cars move is cameras on each side of the car, front, back, left and right. Some developers like Google have favoured a selection with both cameras and sensors on their car, and they are the three technologies that can be used in driverless cars. Now let's see what another group of people, the younger generation, have to say about driverless cars. You'll both be taking your driving test within the next few years, so would you feel at all unhappy if after all your hard work to get the licence you're confined to driverless cars in a few years?
Well, no, not really. If it's saving people's lives, then I don't see a problem with that.
How will it save people's lives?
Driverless cars are going to save people, like getting people that are unsafe to drive off the road.
I completely disagree, however, because it's a computer at the end of the day, and computers are 90% of the time will go wrong at some point, meaning there'll be more accidents, and I would be very upset if I had to lose all the hard work that I got my licence for.
Exactly.
People are like that as well.
However, people with the new driving test which has come in recently will not pass it. So
would you prefer to drive all through your life, or would you prefer driverless cars, or don't you really mind?
I am not really that fast. I don't see a problem with not driving, but I don't really see a problem driving either.
Right, okay.
I'd prefer to drive my whole life because I feel like it's safer and easier than having a driverless car which I wouldn't fully trust.
Do you think that you would be more worried about sharing the road with driverless cars or other drivers?
It's definitely got to be other drivers.
No, definitely driverless cars, because at the end of the day, drunk driving and that causes accidents, but think how many accidents are going to be caused by driverless cars when they malfunction and don't work properly.
Don't you think there's still a chance of human error even if there is driverless cars, of people getting out on the motorway and the company's not developing the software properly?
Completely, I can completely agree that most companies won't develop the software correctly.
But there's still got to be testing and off the road testing to make sure these cars are usable on the road.
Yeah, but what if the standard of testing of the company is not proper, which most companies are not? They just distribute it as fast as possible because people want updates.
There's got to be a government standard set.
But don't you think driverless cars in a way already exist in taxis? Because
What do you mean?
people who can't drive can sit in the taxi and have someone else drive it
But
for
then
them.
that's still human, because at the end of the day these cars will have no human to stop it. Like there's going to be there will be an override function, but the humans can't slam on the brakes if the person's walked out in front of them.
Yeah, but then people who use taxis there's not many people that use taxis. They seem as expensive.
Yeah, do you think it's similar to the autopilot in a plane? So when you're in a plane, if there was no pilot, you would feel a bit worried, yes? Don't you think it's similar in a driverless car?
However, how often does the autopilot actually come on? And think about it, whenever they use autopilot, they normally ask you to put your seatbelt on.
Yeah. What do you have to say about that, Jack?
The job of a pilot is a lot more demanding than the job of a driver, so I can't really feel like you can compare the two.
But at the end of the day, you need a licence for both. No one can just drive a plane and no one can just drive a car.
Yeah. Would you feel sad at all for all of the people who will lose their jobs with driverless cars?
Of course.
Like cabbies and bus drivers
100%.
and lorry drivers?
100%. because that's putting people out of work, and then that linking back actually will ruin our economy slightly, because think how many people are bus drivers and taxi drivers and Uber drivers and all that. At the end of the day, they've all lost their jobs.
It's a sacrifice, but in some cases
It's an unnecessary sacrifice. We don't need driverless cars, it's just a cool novelty.
that saves people's lives.
But it doesn't save people's lives at the end of the day, because think how many accidents will occur with driverless cars? Probably the same amount as ones that will have driver cars.
There's a Google car somewhere in America that's on the road now, and it's not crashed once.
Well, at the end of the day, people are still going to be stupid. People go, oh, here's a driverless car, let me walk you out in front of it. So at the end of the day, it's not saving anyone.
Yeah, because you still have to slow down from 60, whether you're in a driverless car or not.
And that can't be done yourself. You have to allow the car to do that. I don't think it will be safe in the future, and I think driver cars are better.
Well, if I see the driverless cars are safe and they are rigorously tested, then I don't see a problem with them.
Okay then. Alright, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And back to me in studio. So now we know what the older and the younger generations think of driverless cars, but what does it all mean? Overall, do we want them or not? Surveys suggest that only 1 in 10 people would actually purchase a driverless car. So public opinion does seem stacked against driverless cars, but that doesn't mean everyone. What do you think? Have your say. Put it out there, get it heard, and change perceptions. Thank you for watching.